This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'd like to give a shout out to our corporate sponsor of the night for all this delicious food over here, Light Power, Nissi and Morty. Thank you very much for your contribution to making this event happen. We're always at a crossroad, and we're still at a crossroad. Now we're between Pesach and Shavuos. And as we know, of course, the Avodah is Sefira. It's coming out of those levels of Tumah that Klal Yisrael was in back in the day, back in the times of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and slowly climbing out. Thank you. This can be a bit of a challenge for us, for all those that are not necessarily in yeshiva, not necessarily learning full time, and even for those that are learning full time and that are in koil, elu ve'elu, we all face a similar challenge. What's that challenge? The challenge is really tapping into the avodah and practical growth. And what exactly are we looking to attain? If you're younger man, okay, so it's more Torah, it's more hasmada. But if we're not in that situation, what is it that we're looking to attain? How do we do it? What's a practical way to get there? So I want to just share a couple of insights, things that I picked up over the past couple of weeks, over Pesach, that I think will be impactful. First and foremost, so I was with my family over Yontif. Where was I? I forgot. Okay, I was with my family. We were somewhere. We're together. Baruch Hashem, we're zeich to spend time together. Thank you. Together. Had a wonderful Yontif. And over Yontif, there's really not so much time to learn. It's hard. You have to steal time. You have to chaprain. And one of my brothers expressed to me, he's in the mirror, and he said, it's really hard. Like, how many hours was I able to pack away learning? I'm used to sitting in yeshiva, he learns by Rabbi Elephant, learning Rashbas, Ketzosis, Rabbi Kiva Egers, and here I am in this hotel, and I'm with my family, and there's so much going on, and the Sdarim, and the next meal, and then you're tired. It's hard. It's just hard to sit down and learn seriously. And Yom Tov is a time where we're supposed to be learning, we're supposed to be connected to Hashem, and Sefira Omer, and Kabbalah Torah. And I shared with him something that I couldn't find. It's in the Nefesh Shimshon from Shimshon Pincus, which I think is so important for all of us, super practical. He writes as follows: Limud HaTorah, learning Torah, not chas v'shalom to mitigate it, to decrease its value, its importance, but limud HaTorah, learning Torah, is only a prat, is an aspect of being a ben Torah. We can all be b'nei Torah, we all are b'nei Torah, and learning Torah, dedicating our time to Torah is something that we have to do. It's something that we have to try as much as we can. We really do. But there's a bigger picture, and that's being a ben Torah. Rabbi Lapiansky has the book Ben Torah for Life. In that book, it's not written for those that are sitting in yeshiva. It's for those that left yeshiva. It's for those that aren't zeiche to have their entire life dedicated all day to sitting and learning Ketzosis and Rashbas. Being a ben Torah means being an Eved Hashem. It means being cognizant of Hashem's presence and focus on that at all time and all costs. And when we can learn Torah and push ourselves, of course, that's what we're meant to do. But the avodah is to be a ben Torah. It's to be an Eved Hashem. It's to be a light, a beacon of light for ourselves, for our families. That's what being a ben Torah is. And for all of us, that's certainly attainable, that's doable, that's within our reach. And for us and for everyone, that's the avodah of Sefira Omer and Kabbalah Torah. So while in yeshivas we're giving drashas about learning more Torah, hasmada, chapping around every second, bringing Gemara to meals, which is something that we're probably all familiar with, and it can seem intense, etc. But as fathers, as husbands, part of a community where it's not as feasible to be running to dinner with your k'tzais, or to be running to go on a trip on a Sunday with your rashba, but you can be a ben Torah, that for sure. What is a ben Torah? So we all know, it means being, like we just said, cognizant of Hashem, thinking of Hashem, just having good midas, not just having good midas, being pleasant. There's a famous Maisa with Moshe Feinstein. That once Moshe was sitting with, I think it was his brand new Chassan Shas, and someone came, it's a famous story, spilled an entire container of ink all over the Chassan Shas. And Rav Moshe, he responded like, it only makes my Chassan Shas all the more beautiful. Famous story. But I want to tell you a story that happened not 89 years ago, it happened a week ago. And not with Moshe Feinstein, but by a regular father like me and you. It was a communal seder, and it was actually a divorced father. I saw this firsthand, and I think this is absolutely incredible. I think this really sums it up. He was with his 3 or 4 daughters, and he was spending the storm with his daughters. He was so into it. He was vibrant. He was screaming the entire Haggadah, and it was with his slavas. It was with real chukah and devekus. It was a beautiful scene just to see this guy. It was a communal seder again, and he was just in his own zone with his 4 daughters. It was beautiful. And I overheard the following. One of his daughters, there was the second night of Pesach, accidentally spilled a cup of wine on his beautiful leather-bound Haggadah. It was obviously new, and it was on the table, and his daughter spilled the wine right all over it. His knee-jerk reaction, I couldn't believe it. Unfolded in front of my eyes. What did he say? He got up and he screamed, "My heilige Tochter, my holy heilige daughter." And this is a regular balabas that wears a blue shirt. You can't believe it, right? In the blue shirt, just took you over. He said all the days leading up to the Leil Seder tonight, he said, I was worried that this Haggadah should stay nice and pristine and clean. He said, I was worried, anxiety, it should stay clean. He said, Baruch Hashem. He said, now that you spilled the wine all over it, I don't have to worry anymore. That's a Ben Torah. Knee-jerk reaction. He didn't first mess up and then go over to his daughter and apologize and come up with some Torah, had to apologize, had to go back and retract. Knee-jerk reaction was, thank you, I had anxiety that it should stay clean, now I don't have to worry anymore. That's being a Ben Torah. Did he go and run and learn a K'tsois after the Haggadah, after the Seder? Doubtful. But he's a Ben Torah. And this is the Avodah. Being a Ben Torah, as a father, as a husband, that's what we strive for. There's a big kasha. We know now we're in the tkufa of Sefira ha'omer. Simple kasha. What is Sefira and what does Omer have to do with each other? Sefira means counting. And what does the counting correspond to? Nissi, you know that one. Counting the days, 49 days. The 49 levels of Tumah. There you go. And we finally got to Kabbalah Satayos, those 49 days. We were in sulliness, we were in impurity, and we counted, and we got out. And we reached the Helikite. The 50th day, the Sharnut, got to Kedusha. What does it have to do with the Omer? The Omer was a carbon. It was born in the base of Mikdash. What do the two have to do with each other? Sefira is counting, and the Omer is a carbon. So where do the two come together? What shaykhis? What does one have to do with another? Good kasha? Ever thought about it? Simple kasha. We're in Sefira. So Omer. What does Sefira have to do with the Omer? You know, that's the kasha of the Marshal. The Marshal Rosh Hashanah of Daf Tezayin. This is his kasha. And he says a beautiful answer. He said, what was the Omer? What was the korban Omer? The Omer was barley. Meichel behema. What animals eat. We eat in our chalent, but back in the day it was only meant for animals. What do we bring on Shavuos? We bring a different carbon. There's no Omer. We bring chitim. Chitim is refined flour. And what changes, what's supposed to transpire over Sefira Omer, is we change from Meichel Behema, from animal food, from Bahamistic, and we transcend. And we move into Meichel Adam. We turn into an Adam. And therefore, Sefira Omer, we're not just counting days, but the Omer of barley, we're moving away from the Bahamias, we're moving away from our lowliness, and we're transcending into this new level of Adam. And finally, on the 50th day, on Shavuos, we bring the carbon of chitim, which is refined flour. Meichel Adam. And that is the avodah of Sefira Omer. To remove ourselves slowly during this process of animalistic, purifying ourselves, and attaining ben Adam, a ben Torah, refining ourselves like the fine flour, and being cognizant of what it takes. It's hard avodah, but to work on this throughout this tkufa. A lot of times, just to finish up, we always have choices to make. There's choices to make, good and bad, toiv and ra. I heard an incredible story last night. I'm going to finish up with this. That is very empowering. And if you think about it, it can charge you and give you literally the fortification to do anything. I heard this story from Reb Chila Spiro on a Vayamoyin. He said it was a Malamed. This goes years back. I don't know what his name was, but somehow he got caught up with authorities and he ended up in jail. And after it was 2-3 years, he came out of jail and he was better than ever. He went back to teaching. He continued becoming the great Talmid Chacham that he was on track for. And he steiged incredibly, which isn't something natural, typical for people that go to jail. You usually become depressed. If you don't kill yourself, you become shvach, you become lowly, and it's very hard to bring yourself back together. But somehow there was something that this Melamed must have done in jail, and he was on fire after. And they asked him, like, Rebbe, my high, what happened to you in jail that you're so chazak, you're so strong, that not only didn't you crumble in jail, but you came out and you're like this whole gavra, and you're on fire, and you're teaching your talmidim, and you're closer to Eibishter, and you're a beacon of light, and you're such a role model. What did you do? And he said, I'll tell you very pashut. He said, when people go to jail typically, what happens? The fact that they're locked up, the fact that they're in a cell, that defines who they are. And they become, and they think, and they identify as a person who's locked up. He was in solitary confinement, and only, you have 9 feet by 9 feet, and you start thinking this of, yeah, I'm confined, I'm completely subjugated to the jail, and to the authority, and to the guards, and to the security, and I'm not a person anymore. He said, but I did something very different. He said, every day, when they would let us out, we had 24 hours, we were in for 23 hours and 45 minutes, he said we were in solitary confinement. 15 minutes, we had a break. He said for those 15 minutes, he said instead of waiting for the security guard to tell us that we can go back in at the buzzer, he said I would go a minute before on my own watch, on my own time, and on my decision, I walked back in for 1 minute. He said the same thing. I had my 9x9 Amos, 9x9 my solitary confinement. He said there was one tile in those 9x9. And I made up that for the 2-3 years that I was in there, I will never ever step on that one tile. Even though the space was so tight and confined, I'm choosing not to step on that one tile. And when I came out of prison, the whole ideology, the identification, the new badge that everyone else took on, that they identified, that they're a eved, that they're a prisoner, he said, I came out, I was the biggest ben chayrin. I'm the most free, empowered man because I lived all those years in jail, not confined, not shackled, empowered, making choices, and as the greatest ben chayrin. And he said, when I came out, I was able to thrive, I was able to soar, teach on levels and heights that I've never been able to do before. And for us, the message is pashut, that as we go through this Sefira Omer, whether it's Shmir Sinayim, whether it's Limud Torah, being a better father, a better husband, chopping around minutes here and there for Torah, because we are coming to Kabbalah Torah, which is extremely important. But whatever it is, but when we make those choices as an Adam, we're moving over to Michael Adam, refined flour. We refine ourselves. Let's work on that and realize that the choice is ours. Realize that the choices that we make aren't only for the spontaneous, aren't only for the moment, but they're eternal, they're lasting, and they won't only have an effect on this Sefira Soimer and this Tkufa, they'll have an effect on you, on your neshama for eternity, on your wives, on your families, on your children, for nitzchis. And with those choices, with that recognition, may we all grow, may we all steig, and bring Hashem Shementis Nachas Ruach and come to Kabbalah Torah as B'nai Torah, as refined, removed from the Bahamias, and become the best versions that we're able to become. Shkoyach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.